friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Tawny. I'm just a girl who loves Christian romance books and has made it her entire personality. In today's video, we are going to be talking about all of the books I read in the month of May. The first book I want to talk about is one that I was asked by the author to read for an endorsement. This is going to be her debut Christian romance novel. She has written a YA dystopian trilogy, but this is going to be her first Christian romance, and so she had sent it to me early and asked me to read it, and if I liked it, to give it an endorsement, and I did end up really enjoying it. And that book is Southern Charm. This is not the actual cover of the book. Her cover reveal will be on June 12th. You will be able to see the actual cover on that day. Her name is Urie, and I will put her username up on the screen and post it also in the description. So be sure that you're following along with her, because she's going to be sharing her debut Christian romance book. But it was actually really cute. There was honestly a lot of stuff that was unexpected. I wasn't anticipating in the book, but it ended up being really good. There was a little bit of suspense in it, which was interesting and not something I was expecting. So I love being surprised like that. So yes, Southern Charm by Urie was the first book I did read this month. The second book I read is Forget Me Not by B.R. Goodwin. And guys, when I tell you this is one of the cutest books I've ever read, I mean, this is one of the cutest books I've ever read. The whole setup was completely different than any other book I've ever read. And the way she did it, I can't say a whole lot about it without giving a huge part of the plot away. But let me tell you, it was really cute. I really enjoyed it. There were little drops of faith through it that were well done. And just the story itself was super cute, super unique, and definitely a 10 out of 10 recommendation. The next book is The Voice We Find by Nicole Deese. Now, I love Nicole Deese. I've read a lot of what she's written. My favorite book of hers up until this book was Before I Called You Mine. And that is a story that's more women's fiction about adoption. I think it's actually told from only one point of view, but this one was told from multiple points of view. But anyways, this book has taken the front spot for my favorites of hers, and this might be one of my favorites of the year so far. The faith in it was really, really strong, and the whole concept was about the female main character becoming a narrator for audiobooks, and just how all of that unfolded, all of the backstory. There was a hint of suspense. Honestly, a lot of unexpected twists and turns that I didn't think would be in this book. I could say it was not expected, but that's the whole unexpected thing. But there was a lot more to this book than I was originally anticipating, and it was phenomenal. Definitely recommend. If you can't tell, this was pretty heavily tabbed, and yeah, this book definitely blew me out of the water and is definitely something you guys should check out. This is part of the Fog Harbor romance series. The first book is The Words We Lost. The second book is The Roads We Follow. And this is, I believe, the final book, The Voice We Find. I have not read the first book, The Words We Lost, yet, but I did read The Roads We Follow, and that is also definitely a recommendation from me. But this book definitely was a front runner, like top favorite of the series. And they do not have to be read in order. I think there's one character who's a carryover from the first book, but you don't need to read the other books in the series to get anything out of this one. You get everything out of this one just as a standalone. So there you go. The other book I read was Sometimes You Stay by Liz Johnson. I actually listened to this one on audio. The audio was done very well. And this is about a travel vlogger who is basically lives a nomadic lifestyle. and her falling for a man who is very much a homebody and doesn't really go anywhere other than his house and other places on Prince Edward Island. But yeah, this was really cute, really enjoyable read. Like I said, a travel vlogger. And this guy, Finn, and her name is Krisha. Finn is a Newfoundland dog breeder, and he trains them as rescue dogs. So yeah, that was like a new job that I really haven't seen in a romance in any book before. So it was an interesting take on it. And it was kind of like, that's like, she's a traveler, he's a homebody, and they just kind of have to find a way to make that work. There wasn't as much faith in this book as Meddling with Mistletoe, which is the first book. I think it's a series. It's the Red Door Inn. But it's basically like the stories are connected by the Red Door Inn. But at the same time, you meet some of the characters in the first book, but you don't have to read the first book to understand what's happening in this book, if that makes sense. So yeah, definitely recommend. Super cute read, really light, but also had depth. So if you're looking for something that's almost like a palate cleanser, but you still want something with substance, this is a good one to pick up. And it's just a good one to pick up anyways. But yes. Okay. The next book I read was, and I should probably say, these aren't necessarily what I read in order, because there's a series at the end that I'm going to be talking about that I did not read altogether. So anyways, and this was actually the very last book I read in May by like minutes. It was like 11:58 when I got to the end of this book. Hearts Aweigh by Shannon Sue Dunlap. I enjoyed this book even more than I thought I was going to. I really thought I was going to like it because it's like the Love Boat meets sort of the Golden Girls with faith. And by the Golden Girls, I mean basically it's a group of old women. There's really nothing other than that similar to the Golden Girls, but they have like that sort of like sassy, snarky, yet loving vibe. The old lady group. So yeah, but this is basically about Abby and Spencer. Abby is a princess on a cruise line, and if you can't tell by the cover, this is set on a cruise ship. But she is looking for love, and the shippers, which is the group of old ladies on the boat on the cruise ship, go around and fix people up, like pair them up and get them with their perfect person, their soulmate. And so she's looking for love. She hasn't been able to find it. And so she goes to the shippers because they paired her best friend up with the love of her life. And so she was hoping that they would do the same for her. And they're like, okay, she's adorable, she's sweet, she's great with kids. But all of the dates that they set her up with just flop. They're just not it. Well, Daisy, who is one of the shippers on the boat, I also want to say I did not read the first book in the series, and I really wish I did. I think like I got a lot out of it. It was an excellent book. Definitely recommend it, but I also do want to go back and read Love Overboard, which is the first book in this series. And I feel like that would have set me up to have a deeper understanding of the shippers, because this is told from 3 points of view. It's all third person. But the shippers, Emily was the main one in whose head we were the whole time. And so we get their point of view, we get the female lead's point of view, and we get the male lead's point of view. And so that's like different for me than what I typically read, because it's usually just like the hero and female main character. But I really liked how this was done, because the faith aspects, like they go in, and there was a decent amount of faith in it, but I liked how they kept going back to prayer to like make sure that they're being led by him and making the right decisions and pulling God into everything that they're doing. So definitely like that part of it. But the story itself, like I said, I knew, I had a feeling I was going to like it just because of, the premise, the plot, or the premise, the synopsis, and then also like the first book. Whenever I got the first book, I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to enjoy this. This has a lot of the sort of things that I don't necessarily always read, but know I enjoy, if that makes sense. Because it's like usually I'm just so stuck on romance that I don't necessarily branch out as much. And this was me branching out a little bit. And even though there's very much romance in it, the like huge chunk of it is about romance, but there's more to it than that. But anyways, Daisy, who is one of the shippers, she actually comes from money. She comes from like old money, and she's like all of the women except I think one are widows. And so they like have this connection and they actually live on this cruise ship. But anyway, so Daisy is on here and her son comes and is trying to convince her to move back to New Orleans, which is where they're from. And they he grew up in a very typical cold, wealthy family. So you get a lot of background from that, but that was kind of like my point with saying why I wish I would have read the first book, because I would have known all of these women's backgrounds better and been able to go in to understand them better. But regardless, um, Spencer ends up being somebody they try to match Abby up with. And Daisy, who is his mom, is very cautious about it because she doesn't want him to hurt Abby. So they're at first thinking that she's being stuck up, saying, oh, well, she's not good enough for my son. But in reality, it's kind of the opposite. But then she realizes that her son has changed a lot. He's come into the faith and, has become a Christian. And so, like, his heart is changing. And yeah, so it's a really cute story. There's a lot of layers. He's also a single father, and that's partly what draws them together. Is Abby, she's a childcare worker on a ship that dresses up as a princess, and his daughter is very much drawn to her because she just is this like loving, bubbly, like nurturing person. And his daughter never had that because, again, he's wealthy. His wife, was wealthy as well, and like showing that love and affection didn't come naturally to them. So, anyways, really cute book. Definitely recommend. And I think if any of that sounds good, like Love Boat, Golden Girls, just with the old, like the fact that they're older ladies and like widows and the romance aspect, um, definitely recommend. And if you're like me and typically you just want straight romance, but you're willing to branch out a little bit, definitely branch out. And I can't like say I recommend Love Overboard because I haven't read it yet, but based off of this book, which I did read, I think I'm going to like that one and probably would recommend reading that one first. But anywho, the next book is The Overdue Kiss by Callie Thomas. This came out June 2nd, and it's the fourth book in the Give a Bookish Girl a Biker series. It can be read as a standalone, but this whole series is best read in order so that you can they each kind of build on each other. So this is the fourth book, and it's about Maya and Des. Maya is an outreach librarian, so that was actually really interesting to read about and learn about because I'd never even heard of that before. But she takes her bookmobile to Ricosa, which is a fictional town on the outskirts of Denver, Colorado, and she's trying to save their library. And so she takes her little bookmobile. She's also a bookstagrammer, and she does some lives, and a certain handsome biker ends up in one of her lives and her viewers go crazy. But it's their story. So she breaks down on the side of a mountain, and Des is on his motorcycle, sees her, helps take care of her, gets her to safety because where she's broke down is literally like one of the worst places, of course. And so he takes her to safety and helps her get everything put up and set up to get her going again. But her friend actually lives in Ricosa. She's a teacher at the high school, which Des is also a teacher at the high school. He's the math teacher. And yeah, so it's their love story and how their relationship unfolds. And for the amount of time they're together, it's really sweet how they fall for each other so fast. And it's definitely more than just skin deep. there's just like this emotional connection that they share, and it's just really sweet and really tender, and definitely recommend it. And yeah, you should just read the whole series because the whole series has been great. And the last set of books I want to talk about is a book series. It's the Romantasy series. It is my first FOMO read, fear of missing out, because one of my friends is completely obsessed with it. And literally after she finished the last book, she's like, I think I'm going to go and reread them. I'm waiting for them to come in because I want to, or I'm waiting for my highlighters to come in because I want to go in and highlight and tab everything. And that series is the Powerless series by Lauren Roberts. I listen to these on audio mostly. I would go in and read when I could, but like physically read when I could, but mostly I listened to them on audio. I was able to get Powerless on Audible, and then I discovered that with my Spotify membership, I can get 15 hours of audiobook listening free a month. And I was like, okay, this series is actually on Spotify. So if you think premium, and if you have higher tiers, you might get more. I'm not sure. This isn't like an advertisement. This is just like thing that I discovered and wish I would have known sooner. The only thing is these books are chunky, especially the last book. My goodness. So I actually ran out of my hours multiple times over, like, it was the very end of April into May, and then I ran out in May, and I had to finish it in the paperback, in the hardback. But anyways, this is not a series for everybody. So I definitely want to preface it with that. This is not a series that I recommend to my normal readers, my normal followers. This series is for people who have no issue with some swearing. The Lord's name is never taken in vain, but there is a decent amount of swearing, more than I was expecting for a YA series. And I also want to say my personal opinion, that could be wrong, but this is very much my personal opinion. This is not YA. There's too much in this. My kids will not be allowed to read this series until they are probably 16 or 17, depending on their maturity level. But anyways, with that being said, it's written beautifully. Her writing is absolutely incredible. Like, Kai, the way he speaks about Peyton is like he's a poet, like truly. And I think by the last book she does call him a poet, but it is just, it's so, the romance is as enemies to lovers as you can get. Seriously, like, he's supposed to unalive her. I don't know, I'm just saying. But anyway, the romance is really, really good. Like, tender, intense, full of tension, longing, and the knowledge that this shouldn't happen. The first kiss takes forever to get there, but that's what it's all about. That part was done incredibly well. There are multiple things that are in the books. One specific thing that carries through the books that I'm not a fan of, but it honestly felt like it was just dropped in so that it could be said, so that she could say it was in there. And so it really didn't bother me that much because it wasn't a huge part of the book at all. There's literally like maybe a paragraph between all three books that deals with it. And I think a paragraph is too much to even say. And then something else happens that I don't agree with, but I can understand why it happened. So this is not like a series where I'm like, I don't have any issues with the books. There are some things that happen that, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of, but it did not ruin the series for me at all, because it was just like a blip in that million pages, not a million, but like in all of those pages, it's just like barely any. It's like maybe a total of a page of things I didn't like. If that makes any sense at all, probably not, but regardless. Yeah, this series, I'm really happy I read the series. Listening to it on audio, I think, enhanced my experience, because the dual narration with Powerless, and then I don't know if it's like there's 3 different narrators in Reckless and Fearless because of another character that comes in, another couple characters. And there's a third narrator that comes in for Reckless and Fearless because they're covering other characters. But the narrators did a phenomenal job, and like I can absolutely picture their voices matching the characters in the books. So yeah, definitely check that out if you have, like, if you're a Spotify member. I think you have to have premium. Like, I have the very bottom premium, but I got 15 hours of listening, so I don't know, just be aware of that as well, because I didn't know until then. Like, I can't even remember. I think it like popped in my head. I'm like, I think I might have audio listening on Spotify, and I did, and I was like, okay, perfect, so this is what I'm going to listen to. But really good series, and like I said, it is not a blanket statement that I recommend these books to everybody. You have to be okay with swearing. I am not a huge fan of swearing in books. Like 99%, 99.8% of the books I read do not have any swearing at all. But like I said, these had a decent amount. There was a lot of violence and gore described. A couple of moments where I was just like cringing, but that's not typically what I read. But like if you're a big fantasy reader or that sort of thing, like it probably won't bother you. But yeah, the swearing, there was a decent amount of swearing, more than I was anticipating. But like I said, there weren't like the major words, if you know what I'm trying to say. And there was no like taking God's name in vain in any way. Basically, if I read that in a book, I'm closing it, I'm DNFing, and I'm done. But there was none of that in this book. There was one big swear word that people see as like the worst, but it was in a spot where you literally just glaze over it and you're like, I'm not surprised that that word was dropped there. Don't like it, don't agree with it, but like I said, these things did not ruin the series. It didn't make me want to put them down. It was just kind of like one of those things where it's like, oh, okay, why does this have to be here? And again, this is 100% my personal opinion. And the only reason I'm sharing these negative thoughts is so that you realize that I'm not necessarily recommending it to everybody. So because if those things bother you, don't read it. Just don't. It's just, as somebody who doesn't like swearing in books, but if it's there, it's not the end of the world. That's where I'm at with it. And I went into these books knowing that because my friend told me about those things. So that kind of like was nice to have that heads up. But yeah, so that is the last group of books I'm going to talk about. The Powerless trilogy by Lauren Roberts. So this was not a huge reading month for me. I think I read a total of 9 books. A lot of them were audio, just because of where I'm at in life and what May was all about. It's the end of the school year, which was crazy, and I had a bunch of other things going on. And you know, my book comes out in June, and I got my edits back from my editor in May that I really needed to focus on. So if I was sitting, I needed to be working on my edits, not reading a physical book, but I also wanted to read. I know people have their opinions, they're very strong opinions on whether listening to audiobooks should be counted as reading, but I am one of the people who believes it should be and can be, and I do. So if you have a problem with that, that's fine, but just, I listen to, like I said, I listen to Powerless, Reckless, Fearless, Sometimes You Stay, and I think that was it that I did audio. Sorry, I have my little thing here. Yeah. And then I read the ebook of Southern Charm, Forget Me Not, and The Overdue Kiss. So, and then these other ones, I read the paperback of those. So anyways, I had my list right here. But yeah, I'm hoping this month will be another good reading month. Like I said, I mean, there are books that I put down and will probably come back to, but these books I definitely enjoyed. Mostly recommend, with the exception of the Powerless trilogy, which I think I've gone over in enough detail. it's not a blanket recommendation, but the other books are all, I think the rest of the books are Christian or have some Christian themes in them, and don't have swearing or anything like that. But yeah, really good reading month in regards to the quality of what I was reading. Hoping to have an even better month in June. I already have I have technically 2 books. I'm counting my book as being read in June because I just read it in 2 days for the like 6 millionth time. But anyways, like I was saying, a lot of audiobooks this month just because I needed to focus on my edits when I was sitting, and also just getting stuff done, chores around the house, folding laundry, putting away dishes, washing dishes, etc. I can listen to my audiobook. Even when I exercise, I've been listening to my audiobooks, and it helps the workouts get done faster. And my goodness, listening to the Powerless trilogy while I was running, I was like, man, I feel like I'm there with them. It was kind of perfect. Like, it made my runs go so fast compared to sometimes when I feel like I'm ready to pass out half into like a half mile. But anyways, yeah, so that was my reading month. I am looking forward to this month. I already listened to an audiobook, read my book on my computer probably 3 times this month, and I have a few other books that I have got to read and plan on reading. So I will, talk about those once I get there. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed my rambling, because that's what you get with me. But anyways, thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, a great weekend, and let me know if you're going to read any of these books. Any of the ones, let me know if you're adding any of these to your TBR, and if you've read them, what you thought of them. So anyways, thank you again. I will hopefully talk to you guys next week. I'm hoping to have a video, get back to my regular posting schedule. Just this last week was pure insanity, and I wasn't able to get a video up, so I apologize for that. But thank you for waiting for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I will see you guys next week. Have a good one. God bless. Bye.